Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Our Thread, the podcast, bringing our content to you. I'm ALLiTiZ, and I'm here with my kinfolk, Beware, Cap, Doc, and Savage. Today, we present Episode 7, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest versus The Social Network. Yes, folks, I used my Mulligan, and it went through. I successfully replaced 3 billboards with the classic film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That somehow happened not to make it on our 64 movie bracket list. So now we have one of our thread members, Savage's favorite movie, The Social Network, pinned up against debatably one of the greatest movies of all time. 2 quote-unquote crazy movies, because we all know that there's a thin line between being crazy and being a genius. If you ask me, both movies have brilliant minds in them. The question is, which movie's greater? While you ponder that thought, let's give a special shout out to tonight's sponsor, Juicy Fruit Gum, the best flavor of gum. And believe it or not, there's a now new long-lasting flavor. And when you bite into a piece, you'll be saying like the chief.
Juicy fruit.
Because there's nothing like it, folks. Without farther ado, let's get into the music by Beware so we can get into the breakdown. Go.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, it's very, homey.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
I hope you realize how you've hurt my feelings.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Next place.
Just take it easy, man.
I'm perfectly confident. Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer nuance.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway.
Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters.
Get off my back!
Don't fuck with my plan!
And like that, he's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread podcast, bringing our content to you, featuring ALLiTiZ.
It's official, old buddy. Well, it has been.
Beware.
From then on, he was known as Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
The Doc.
You're the doc, Doc.
The Cap.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Big fuck!
And myself, Savage.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's 2 of them.
Homework's in. Let's begin. I've already told you The Social Network is Savage's favorite movie, or one of them. So why don't we let him start the breakdown for these 2 great movies?
Social Network's one of my favorite movies of all time. So it was really a pretty interesting week of homework for your boy Savage over here. I'm going to start off by talking about the movie that I hadn't seen yet. I had never seen until about 4 days ago. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I've been in healthcare for almost 10 years now, and I've probably heard the term Nurse Ratched referenced maybe 50 times. I never got that reference before until seeing this movie. So I've had patients say things like, "Oh man, that woman you're working with, she's a real Nurse Ratched," or "Oh, when we're doing some reporting and we have this, we got Nurse Nancy, we got Nurse Ratched, Nurse Jackie, all these folks, we're doing some of our testing names." And I'd never understood that reference before. So I just wanted to preface it with, now I kind of get where that's coming from. Talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Basically, it's about this dude, Randall McMurphy, played by Jack Nicholson, who gets sent kind of through the prison jail network into some sort of evaluation at like a mental institution. I think his most recent charge, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was possibly statutory rape. And
what can I say? I fight and fuck too much.
It was a pretty it was an unbelievable movie. I'm pissed that I'm 36 years old and I've never seen it before. So there's some great stuff that happens in this movie. There's great characters. I didn't realize that was Danny DeVito until like halfway through the movie, and he looks like he's about 4'7", and I know he's I know he's less than 5 foot, but man, he looks like a kid in that movie. Chief obviously juxtaposes on the height scale. He's got to be 6'10", a real tall dude. The movie blew my mind. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I actually got a lot of folks this weekend when I was up north were saying how much I use fantastic. I think because I use in the thread so much because we have so many fucking fantastic movies. But I thought that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a fantastic movie.
Oh man, Savage, that's excellent and truly fantastic. I like I said last week, one of my favorite parts of this podcast is when our friends, our Ken, get to see movies they've never seen before. And it's almost like vicariously living through them. It's like, ooh, I wonder how much they're gonna like it. They're gonna love this, because these movies are great. And I almost felt a little guilty taking such a fantastic mulligan against another film, The Social Network. I really liked watching Social Network again, probably for like the third or fourth time. I really enjoyed it. The music is so good. It's such a ride, like a lot of these films. And right when they get like the computer out, and he like that night after the date, and he starts making face smash and stuff, I'm just sold from there. I'm just along for the ride, and it's so intense. And a lot of these movies that we have on this bracket deal with friendship, but this is a kind of a different type of friendship. And there's a lot of cutthroat, and in the business of making a business too, it can be cutthroat, especially the new internet wave, which was taking place in places like Harvard and all across the board. Pretty much the time when we were in college, social sites were starting to take their play and getting bigger and bigger. So let's go to Doc really quick so he can kind of give a synopsis of watching these two fantastic films.
Yeah, thanks for passing it to me, Savage, I'm really happy to hear that you enjoyed that movie, and I think it makes for a really good conversation, because these were two great movies. And going off Social Network, I was doing some research and came across this quote from the director David Fincher, and I thought that he really nicely summed up this movie. He said, "This is a movie about friendship that dissolves through this thing that promised friendship." Like they had a friendship,
Wow.
and it fell apart as a product of them making a social website. And I thought that really helped to kind of concisely explain what this movie was about. Some other themes that I thought were really interesting about this movie were about social status and kind of exclusivity and being obsessed with that almost, and then being jealous. There's a lot of jealousy themes, betrayal, and then kind of going the whole gamut of your friends, and then it all breaks down and you're isolated. You're in isolation. You're and not just at the very end, but even throughout, as you're kind of giving depositions and you're facing folks, you're kind of isolated. You've got your team of lawyers, but you're pitted against other people and having to defend yourself. And to this day, and we'll get into this because the social network is only the beginning of the story. And I kind of jokingly was saying to my wife the other night, I was like, can't wait to see the sequel, because there's so much has happened with this group and with the social network and kind of Facebook dudes. And he's still, we see him today, on the stand, having to, answer questions. And I love Savage, kind of his brief his description of his takeaway from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And some of the themes that I took away from that were, again, this is a story as old as time and definitely relevant today, but it's a story of oppression and authority and kind of domination and humiliation of people that are quote unquote below you. And also this question of, what is sanity? What is insanity? And what, kind of questioning that and what we accept or don't accept. And also like these things of like these individualism. I was kind of like, was really taken aback by how they dehumanized some of the characters and the people in the Institute, and they kind of stripped away their identities. And, we didn't know much about them, but and the staff treated him as such, and I that kind of really hit home. But I also, what I liked about it then is that this is the ultimate kind of underdog story too. It is about kind of standing up, fighting back. You can't necessarily beat the system, but they wouldn't allow it to beat them. And also kind of like the small can overcome. And I think that those are some of the themes that I took away from this as well, that I thought were really important features of the plot. And I don't know if anybody else wants to elaborate on either of these plots, but really good stories.
Lots of good stuff with the doc here. Who's ready to hit us up with a little synopsis here?
Sure, I'll I'll touch on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest first. Some quick observations about that movie. Nurse Ratched, to me, feels like, I don't know if any of you guys got the sense that she doesn't like men, perhaps, or maybe it's just, you can see the I don't know, her disdain for Mac throughout the movie as he gets more and more defiant. But I think that she really, really takes pleasure in the power that she has over him, especially during that voting scene where he's trying to watch the ball game and trying to get everybody to vote and change up the he has a really hard time wrapping his head around a couple of things. Why is it such a big deal to change the routine when it is, and he realizes it is a big deal for a lot of these guys. Another thing that he has a huge problem with is when he finds out, one of the security guys tells him that
I'll be seeing you on the outside, you know what I mean? By the time you get out of here, you'll be too old to even get it up. 68 days, buddy. 68 days. What the fuck you talking about, 68 days? That's in jail, sucker. You still don't know where you at, dude. Yeah, where am I at, Washington? With us, baby. You with us.
Think that you need to be here. You don't get out in any certain amount of time, and he's blown away by this. And he, in the next group, he starts saying, like, why did none of my friends here tell me that you guys could keep me here as long as you wanted to? And he learns that they're all, for the most part, there voluntarily, and he literally cannot wrap his mind around that. Cannot understand, giving up your freedom for this place. So yeah, I just thought those are two interesting factors of the movie. Mac is a powerful character. I feel like he comes in and immediately establishes himself as maybe like, an older, wild brother or even a father figure to all of the patients. They all look up to him, and I think that they're all in need of some type of male influence. You come into this story without knowing where anybody really comes from, except for this sort of loosely based idea of what Mac has been through with the prison system and, leading this wild life of fighting and fucking. So, yeah, I guess I'll pass it to Beware.
Thanks, Cap. Yeah, both movies excellent classics in their own respective generations for sure. Completely different movies, but I think they have a few commonalities in that they're about disruptors, as in the lead character is the disruptor in the system that is in place. And that system is very regimented, and it has been for a very long time. Within both movies, Mark Zuckerberg and Mac, stir the pot. They both, say, fuck the norm. This is not what I'm looking for. This is not it. And they do their own, they take their own actions to kind of flip it on its head. And in turn, they're able to take control of that situation and gain what they ultimately want. And I think both of those movies do it in completely different ways, obviously, but they really get the people behind them respectively, and they bring the viewers into that as well, because you definitely feel the energy behind the movement on behalf of both of the characters, and you're rooting for them even if they maybe don't have the best interests in mind, in certain scenarios, specifically Social Network.
Yeah, they're both definitely trying to get laid is kind of like the part of it. I think with Mark Zuckerberg, the whole the genesis for this version of the creation of Facebook is that he's trying to get laid. And this is just a tool to help him do that, and to help other people, introverts like himself, to be able to do that. But what you said about them both being disruptors, that's a fantastic point, Beware.
Lots of good points from our thread members here talking about two fantastic movies, to quote Savage. Beware was mentioning the characters and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get into the characters right now. And I'm going to talk about how much I love McMurphy, because it's hard not to pick him as the best character. But every scene McMurphy is with Chief, there's that friendship, man. There's like that best friend type of thing, and it lasts a while, and he entices him in the beginning and eggs him on, and he gives him a hard time at first, and he's just like everybody else. And there's of course this big thing coming that everybody thinks he's deaf and dumb, but later he reveals himself. And even before that process, those are some of my favorite scenes where he's just such a presence. And the Cap and I were talking, and this might be the first movie that are two novels going against each other. The Social Network was a novel before it was called The Race, something Billionaires.
Accidental Billionaires.
And then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was very interesting about the author and how he wrote this book. A lot to say. I'm sure Doc will tell you, but he had a little, some trippy episodes to dive into what was being experimented on schizophrenic people and stuff like that being LSD. And a lot of his book was wrote under the influence of LSD, and that's the age he went through. But back to the characters, as in Chief, you know, obviously our sponsor, shout out to Juicy Fruit today. When he gets a piece of Juicy Fruit, 2 pieces, I am just so happy at that point. I love it. Well, you got him good, Chief. You really did. It's just, there might be my best quote.
You fooled them all.
Thank you. Juicy Fruit. Well, you sly son of a bitch, Chief. Can you hear me, too? Yeah, you bet. Well, I'll be goddamn, Chief. And they all think you're deaf and dumb. Jesus Christ. You fooled them, Chief. You fooled them. You fooled them all. You fooled them all.
That's probably my best scene. My favorite character being Chief. But one of the reasons, and kind of, I guess I'm getting into my scenes too, which it doesn't bother me. When there's the basketball scene in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Chief actually starts to communicate and scores some baskets. And we all know that Jack loves basketball so much, and he's over there leading the team. What are you doing? You threw it into the fence. And it's just so great. But when Chief does his little strut, his little walk, when he's getting happy, it's a walk, and he's as tall as a tree. And then later he's skipping. It is so, so good. And I couldn't say enough about every time the Chief speaks and every time McMurphy and the Chief are together. So that's kind of my character. I'm calling my best character Chief. He's more of a supporting actor in a way, but he's such a small, big, humongous role that I have to give my favorite character to Chief. And I'm going to go to Doc.
I love that, man. So a couple quick facts. So Savage brought up the point about asking us how tall the Chief was. And so he was 6'7", Will Sampson. And from what I was reading, he really wasn't even an actor. He was just kind of casted based on his size and availability, and
heritage.
Yes, heritage, obviously. So one of the things, though, another fact is that the novel, and it's written by Ken Kesey, I think, Kesey, Ken Kesey. It was a novel that came out in 1962. This movie came out in 1975. But there's a couple interesting facts about that too. But that novel was told from the perspective of the Chief. And so I have not read it. I've heard it's a really great book. It was actually banned in schools for a while because of it had
some racist stuff in it. That's why sexual stuff. The perspective of the Chief, I feel like, is a perfect narrator, because he doesn't speak really. He does end up communicating, but he's observing everything that Mac's doing. In the book, it's really, really interesting because he is actually schizophrenic in the book. He has these paranoid delusions where he gets taken in the middle of the night into the basement, and they're doing all these experiments on people. It's pretty wild. And the book is, I would say, way more trippier, I guess.
I heard there's smoke when Miss Ratchet's talking. I heard that like he sees smoke like coming from her and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's things like that. But yeah, the book was great, but I feel like that this is one of those rare sort of moments where the movie kind of does the story better justice. You kind of need to see these characters interact with each other to really understand them.
And so thanks for that, Cap. So I'm glad to have somebody on the panel who's actually read the novel. I think that's provides some helpful perspective. So yeah, like ALLiTiZ alluded to this earlier, that the author, I actually watched an interview with him, and he's a smart dude. He attended Stanford University, got a creative writing degree, graduate degree, and participated in studies on LSD, MK Ultra studies, and used that. He kind of considered himself part of the Beat generation of the 50s and 60s, and kind of hung out with that crew and was a writer, wrote on hallucinogenic stimulant drugs. The book is a trip, but it was a major hit right off the get. And actually so much so that Kirk Douglas bought the rights to it as soon as he could at any opportunity, because he wanted to make the movie. He never got around to it, and his son Michael Douglas, you guys might have noticed this, was actually a producer on it back in '75 or whatever when it came out.
Just seen that today.
I noticed that. Yeah. And I was like, that's not the same Michael Douglas, obviously. That's awesome.
Man. And so they obviously took the story in a little bit of a different direction. And Ken Kesey, much to his disapproval, he actually vowed to never watch it because he was upset at how different the movie was from his novel. And
kind of a Kubrick thing with Stephen King. That's a bummer.
Mm-hmm. And so there was even an anecdote where he was kind of vegging one day, watching TV, and started watching something, flipped through channels, started watching something, and was into it, and then realized it was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest channel.
Oh, yes. Nice shot.
Yeah. Yep. So, but that's some little facts with Doc right there.
We love our facts with Doc. Let's go to Beware, because we're talking about characters now, and Beware was kind of talking about that when he was doing his synopsis.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was going through the synopsis, I mean, it was really the characters drive the movies. You know, you don't have the movies without those characters and the fact that they're disruptors. So it's not so much the characters and how they're played as how much they're driving the story in that regard. Mark Zuckerberg's a little dweeb. He is not likable. I remember the first time I watched it thinking that he was much more likable. And I've only seen this movie twice, and this is the second time I've watched it. And there's definitely a good amount of time between. And I think obviously the reality kind of lends to why I find the character less interesting, or less like I'm less apt to root for him.
We know him a lot better too.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's likable in that movie.
Yeah, I like Peter Parker. He's good.
Yeah, so do I.
Eduardo, yeah, he's the man.
Eduardo,
the money man.
Good. Yeah, he's good. And I like JT as Sean Parker is excellent.
Oh yeah, that's a good role.
He is likable. He's the likable douchebag, right? He's such a good. He nails that role. He knocks that out of the park. And then when it turns a corner, obviously it's a bummer, in general, because it's the lull in the movie. But I think that movie is driven by a lot of interesting characters in that their background, and their background has influenced us. And we like Sean Parker and Mark Zuckerberg. These people have left a stamp on our lives, and I think every one of us could say that.
Quick question: Who has used Facebook today? Just give a hand up or an eye. So Adam, I have. Yes. I think Beware has, Will has. All right, 3 out of the 2 members have still used Facebook to this day. Interesting.
Hang on. I'm just checking your math on that. Yes. I got the same thing.
I was downloading songs off Napster as well today. So that's
Hey, Beware used to have the most Napster songs ever. Broke multiple computers. This is facts.
But that's why those characters really resonate on social network, maybe more so than the actors and the performances even. You know what I mean? It's like the characters that really you get to see them, you get to see their backstories, and that's really interesting because honestly they're the same ages as all of us too. That really lends itself to the characters in that movie and the story. But ultimately I think the characters and the way that they're portrayed come across better in one Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Jack Nicholson and Mac, really excellent performance, and everybody's excellent. I love Danny DeVito as Martini.
Yeah, everybody plays crazy so good.
Awesome. He's great.
Yeah, he's great, man.
My vote definitely goes for Jack Nicholson, but I love Martini. I love Christopher Lloyd is awesome as kind of like the guy who's really like his heart is in it. You know what I mean? He's like a team player all the way, and but he doesn't have the courage to say it. But like he's in it, and like he does this really great performance of that specifically. Because it's really like a complicated role, and everybody obviously has a complicated role. The younger guy with the long hair with the stutter, he's awesome.
Hey, shout out to the guy that dances. I love him.
yeah, everybody's excellent. But I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder, so I'll give mine to Mac and keep it moving.
So Beware, that was Christopher Lloyd's first movie.
Wow.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And so like all those, they casted all those characters to be unknown characters. And obviously we know Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd went on to have really great careers. I also want to point out that I love Cheswick. I think he was super Jen. Super
Cheswick's cards.
Yes. Super Jen.
Always smiling.
On his sleeve. Oh God, I loved him so much. I'll come back when we talk about scenes in a little bit. I'll come back to that. One thing I want to go off of what Beware was talking about is that, and I want to emphasize this for the viewers at home, is that we are like literally the same age as Zuckerberg and Parker, or at least same generation, because we, I think that I joined Facebook in 2004, 2005, when it was exclusive. You had to get an invite.
.edu email address.
Yep, you had to have all that, and I remember those first phases, and we grew with the evolution of that, which is interesting to me. And then also Napster was huge when we were in high school. We were part of all that. We lived through all that.
Shout out to Basement Mixes. Those CDs that Beware made 100 of them plus. Basement Mixes filled with all songs from Napster.
Yep.
Man.
So it's fun. That was fun for me to see kind of what that evolution story was, or to learn about these people behind the creation of that. And obviously this is a Hollywood movie, and so there's some, it's not all truth, but it's still fun to see these characters and, learn a little bit about their background story and who they were. That said, I kind of want to talk about characters and I think Beware gave a little bit of shine to this, but Jesse Eisenberg playing Mark Zuckerberg, I thought he did awesome. Obviously, people already talked about McMurphy. That's, I think, undeniable. But Jesse Eisenberg and how he did this is that he actually has dealt with and struggled with OCD and kind of mental health, and so him playing this role, he says one of the hardest parts was to feed into that, all these things that he's tried to suppress himself over the years. He actually tried to pull upon those to play this character, because that's who Mark Zuckerberg is. He's Aspie. He definitely has Asperger's. He's socially awkward. He is arrogant. He's insecure. He's immature. He's obsessed with social status. He objectifies women. He's he's all these things. He's a dick. He's an asshole. Was called these things in the movie. And but I think when it boils down to it, he's somebody that just wants to build and create and do something. Whether it was because he wanted to get laid, or whether it was because he wanted to stick it to somebody because he got dropped. Anyways, I thought that character was really well played. And although, as Beware put, you don't like this guy, I still found myself kind of rooting for him, and I felt like that was an interesting dynamic in the movie. Is that oftentimes it's the reverse, where it's there's somebody that you you shouldn't like, but you love. Like they're the anti-hero, but you are strongly rooting for them. And I guess this was kind of like that too, but like you kind of didn't like them, but I felt like you were still kind of rooting for them. And then just kind of honorable mention, I definitely want to throw out the the Winklevoss twins.
Hey, Sav, say the quote really quick. Come on, Sav, hit us with your quote.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's two of me.
There you have it, folks. Yeah,
So
they're great.
Some things I actually didn't know about the Winklevoss twins, and I didn't know this until I looked it up. So this is just me being probably really silly. But so the main actor that played him is Armie Hammer. And so you guys have seen him, but so his face was on both bodies, but it was only him. It doesn't have an actual twin in real life. Yeah. What? So they had this other guy, his name is Josh Pence, who's actually a Ralph Lauren model, played the second one. Yeah. And they digitally put Armie Hammer's face on both characters. And these guys actually
That's early for that technology too.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this right now. I was so confused by that.
It looks flawless.
So confused.
Too.
Yeah.
So they spent 10 months together in like a camp. They called it like a twin boot camp, learning each other's mannerisms and like practicing together as actors.
That's so wild.
Yeah,
that's the craziest fact we've had, I think. Yeah.
And so like that to me blew my mind because I had no idea. Even though the guy looked familiar, I was like, oh, he must have a twin. I just didn't think twice of it. And to learn that was like, holy shit, because that looks flawless.
Hey, let's all row together, folks. Let's all row that ship, and let's pass it over to Savage. He's going to be he's leading the ship. He's we're rowing fast now.
Yep. So there's a little bit of thunder stealing that just occurred, but no worries. It's all good. We're all friends here. This is our thread. Yes, my favorite character is actually two characters played by the same actor, like the doc just described. Would be the Winklevi. Stunningly arrogant twin brothers played by the same actor. They come from a family of means. They both have their own mannerisms. They're actually what you call mirror image twins. And I only know this just because I have twins in real life, identical twins. But in real life, one of them is left-handed and one of them is right-handed. And it's just a super random thing. And I couldn't pick up on it in the movie, whether or not they actually captured the mirror imageness of them. When I found out for the first time that it was by one actor playing two, and they nailed it, and or he nailed it, I should say. Lots of effort, lots of references to like, what's Dad gonna do? Dad's lawyer, our family attorney is writing the cease and desist to Zuckerberg. There's a lot of really, really good acting going on. And I don't want to jump into favorite scene yet, but little precursors, they would be involved in my favorite scene as well. I'm going to pass it over to Cap. I think he's got something to say about this.
I'll just put in my vote for most valuable character here. I'm going to have to say McMurphy. I think for obvious reasons. I mean, he's a huge character. I think it's my favorite role of Jack Nicholson ever. I think it just seems like such a fun fucking role to play. Having read the book, that conversation between Chief and McMurphy, where he says that he's trying to encourage him and give him that motivation that he would need to leave with him. And he's just like, I just can't. And he's just like,
Chief, I can't take it no more. I gotta get out of here. I can't. I just can't. It's easier than you think, Chief. For you, maybe. You're a lot bigger than me. Why, Chief, you're about as big as a goddamn tree trunk.
Like, what are you talking about? You're as big as a fucking tree. And he's basically, he's saying that his spirit isn't big, his spirit is broken. And Jack has a huge spirit, and he becomes that that strength, that huge spirit for everybody else. And I think that is mainly why I'm so inspired by that character. So.
Man, Cap, that's deep. That's heavy, man. Doc was over there. He's gonna.
You're right. He's talking about his spirit, how he feels. Well, one of the end scenes where Chief, puts McMurphy out of his misery. He says, "I feel as big as a mountain."
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of him realizing his potential, and
I love that scene too.
Yeah,
I love how he gives him a hug. A big hug, and lobotomized.
I think you guys basically just summed up what I was going to call my best scene, my favorite scene, because I really do like the basketball scene. I've already talked about that and described it well. That's probably my like lighthearted favorite scene, but really you guys just described my best. So I'm going to kind of get my maybe a little bit of quotes and scenes out of the way because you've talked about it, but I'm going to go to the Social Network right now. And Cap, you logging onto Facebook over there? He might be. He's using the old AOL, but he's a programmer on the side, a coder too. Also the artist of our thread. One thing in Social Network, and Beware was saying it best. He's a douche. He's not a good dude, but you do kind of like his small victories. And the one time where he's going against the board, and for making Face Smash, I believe it was, and they're telling him like what he's done wrong, and he stands up and addresses, and he's like, I think I deserve some recognition. And
I've already apologized in the Crimson to the ABHW, to Fuerza Latina, and to any women at Harvard who may have been insulted, as I take it that they were. As for any charges stemming from the breach of security, I believe I deserve some recognition from this board.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
I don't understand.
I'm going to put that in there because that is just so good. And there's another scene, which is not even talking, where he chucks the beer at the girl. Then he chucks another beer. There's tons of them. And I could keep on naming a few. I'm going to see if I have one more on there. It's just so good. I like when they're walking out of the party, and it's a Caribbean party in the middle of winter, and they have Niagara Falls in the background. And he's like, if I have to stand and look at Niagara Falls for one, it's like you appreciate his OCD-ness in there. And I think I got Beware ready to talk about some scenes now.
I love in Social Network the whole vibe of creation. I'm a creator personally, and I love that you get to see other people creating, and not only are they creating, but like what they're creating, and the impact of what they're creating, and they do a really good job of showing the details of how it comes about. And I really love the scene as a microcosm of that. I really love the scene where he's in class or whatever doing it's not class, they're doing their thing, and his coder comes up to him and says, so that girl, is she still, are you dating her? Is she single? And he has the light bulb moment.
Runs out of the room.
And he runs out of the room. And that's the best, because you have those moments sometimes where it's just like, oh my goodness, this is a game changer. If I don't stop everything and write this on my phone right now, if I don't write the song down so I can have the sample right now, I'm doing myself an injustice. And I love that, because I really feel that. And that's honestly, it's my favorite scene in the movie, but it's like why I love that movie so much.
Beware.
In general. And then on the flip side, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, there's a million great scenes in that movie. There's I don't want to tease too many of them, because it's going to be somebody else's favorite. First of all, actually, I don't really like the scene where he's getting, I appreciate it, but I really hated it when after they get in trouble and reprimanded. It's like, it's chaos. He wants his cigarettes. There's the chaos.
They're getting the electric shock therapy.
Yeah, man, that whole scene is really disturbing, and I really hated when he is getting pulled away. Hedgewick is getting pulled away.
Sedgwick, yeah.
And that actually brought a tear to my eye. It was like really hard to watch. And then when he gets the electroshock therapy after that, along with obviously the ending, those are really tough scenes, and they're really good and well done scenes, and it's really unfortunately representative of the story they're telling. And but the best scene on the flip side of that, the best scene in my opinion is when they don't let him watch the baseball game, and Jack Nicholson and Mac is just is telepathing the game, and they're all getting excited, and it's great. And
Richardson is rounding first. He's going for second. The ball's in the deep right center. Davison over in the corner, cut the ball off. Here comes the throw. Richardson rounding first. He goes into second. He's tied. He's in there. He's saved. It's a double. He's in there, Martin. Look at Richardson. He's on second base. Kovacs is in big fucking trouble. Big trouble, baby. All right. Here's Tresh is the next batter. Tresh looks in. Koufax gets the signs from Roseboro. He kicks once. He pumps. He fires. It's a strike. Koufax's curveball is snapping off like a fucking firecracker. All right, here he comes with the next pitch. Tresh swings. It's a long fly ball in deep left center.
things, and it's an impactful scene.
I just wish they would have counted Chief's vote, man. But hey, when he raises his hand,
yeah,
that's good. Who wants to talk about scenes next?
There's a couple scenes. There's one from each movie that were my two favorites. Both actually coincidentally involve water. In One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I love when they steal the charter boat.
So good.
I love it when he goes and takes when Mac takes his little lady friend into the dorm of the boat, and all the guys kind of follow suit to see if they can catch a peek. And then I think Cheswick is steering the boat, and was it Cheswick or was it Cheswick was steering the boat, and then he goes down too, and then they're going off course, and then what's his name catches a fish, and then Matt comes out and he realizes no one's actually driving the boat at that point, but then he realizes that he caught a fish, so he runs over and is completely yeah, he caught a fish. It's so awesome, even though he just got interrupted.
So good.
I love that. But my favorite scene is from The Social Network. It doesn't do much to drive the plot along, but the Henley Royal Regatta scene with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's rendition of In the Hall of the Great Mountain King. ALLiTiZ, cue that fucking music right now. This is a David Fincher flex move. It doesn't do anything to advance the storyline other than to show Winklevi lose a race, which is supposedly the Super Bowl of crew. Even though eventually they do end up collecting money from, as we find out in the end credits, they end up collecting money from Zuckerberg. It's got that tilt shift.
Savage, can you talk in your preview voice while the music plays under you lightly? I need the Savage intro music voice. When they roll
when they're rowing their boats down the Henley Regatta. And it is fantastic. It's so cool looking. They have the tilt shift, which is a really good camera. This is a David Fincher flex too. They have this tilt shift. So what you do is you kind of out of focus the top and the bottom of the screen. In the middle, it's really refined. It makes everything look miniature. So it makes everything that's in focus actually look like they could be like Legos or toys or toy boats. That scene, it's only a minute and a half long. It doesn't do much to drive the storyline, but man, it is such a good scene. Gets you pumped up for that last third of the act 3 of the movie, which is just balls to the walls.
Savage.
I love all that. Took me there. I love when we go right back to it. Cap real quick and then pass it on above you to the doc.
Sure thing. Scenes. There's a ton of great scenes in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This past time that I watched it, I was really, really feeling it when, they have the party. Things go wrong. They were on the verge of escaping in the middle of the night, and they just all fucked up, and they got too drunk, and everybody passed out. And in the morning, when they find the kid.
Oh, no, the kid.
Yeah, love him.
Billy?
Who gets laid?
Yeah, Billy. Yeah,
Billy. Yeah.
Billy Bibbit. Yep. He, Nurse Ratched finds him and then just guilts him. Brings his mother into it and says she's going to tell his mother, don't you feel ashamed? And basically puts him in a room where he puts a piece of glass in his neck and Nicholson gets in there, Mac takes a look at it, and you see it on his face where he's like, he's had it. He's lost it. He's willing to sacrifice his entire existence because he's full of rage at this point. He can't deal with this woman anymore. She killed him in his mind, and he just chokes her. And I remember thinking, like, fuck, this is a fucking movie.
Savage scene right there.
Savage,
but we're not
yeah,
gonna,
sure.
It's too real. We're just gonna keep it just how it is.
And that being said, the whole movie has a very real feel to it. We really just get that that sense of like when they're in those group therapies where they're all kind of talking over each other and teasing each other and shit like that. So those are some great scenes too. But The Social Network, the one that really had me laughing, is when the Winklevoss twins finally decide to take their first course of action in trying to get somebody's help in figuring out how to stop Zuckerberg from stealing their idea. They decide that it's against Harvard law to steal from another classmate, and they decide they're entitled to this meeting with the president of the university. And I think that is the character's name is Larry Summers. I love that guy. When they get in that meeting with this guy, there was 2 lines that really cracked me up, and we can get into that a little bit. But I believe it was where he just they're giving it to him, and he just says something. They memorize part of the rule book, and he just goes, "You memorize this instead of doing what?"
Well, sir, in the Harvard Student Handbook, which is distributed to each freshman, students are required to respect public and private ownership.
And, yes, sir, punch me in the face. Go ahead.
Yes. And he just goes, then they say something else, and he just goes, "I'm devastated by that." Those 2 things as like an administrator, and an intelligent one at that, just fucking murdered me. And I really appreciated that scene. It was very real to me. So yeah, I'll pass scenes to Doc.
Hey, so I love that you ended with that, because I was reading something and they were actually interviewing the actual president at the time about that scene, was referencing that meeting, and he goes, I've been, meeting with students for years. I guess he was like Treasury of State or some shit like that. So like, he's like, this is kind of a bullshit. It's almost like a step down, but like, he's whatever. It's still president of Harvard. And he was like, I've learned 2 things. He said, if a student comes to me at 3 p.m. dressed in a suit, it can only mean 2 things. One is that they are either like just coming from a job interview, or they're about to go to a job interview, or 2, they're an asshole. And he goes, I've seen plenty of assholes.
That's great. I love that. I love that there's a fact in that, because you need that. Sometimes you can't make up these stories.
The meeting's going to go really well when he says, "And punch me in the face," right off the bat. Awesome.
I'll throw a couple out there real quick as far as like honorable mentions. And I think Beware maybe already touched on this, but like in the opening, one of the opening scenes where he's developing Face Smash, I just think that is such a brilliant scene, because it establishes himself as a character, how quickly he thinks, how easy it is for him to put things together, how it's driven by his kind of spontaneity, for better or for worse, but it's almost it's couched in this kind of revenge and kind of coming from a bad place, but it's this brilliance of a thing that takes off, and I just love the energy in that. So I love that for an honorable mention. The other honorable mention, going to Cuckoo's Nest, is it's on the scene where they steal the bus. They're going to the boat, and they bring candy on, and so Jack Nicholson is saying, "Boys, this here's candy." And she kind of gets on there. She's kind of like chomping her gum, and she's got this smile. She's looking at everybody, and they're all just kind of like, "Oh, woman," and like they're staring at her. And she goes, "Are you crazy? You all crazy?" And they all just are staring at her, and they just all nod their head yes. And like, that's the scene, and I love it.
That murdered me. I'm so glad you said that. That was what I wanted to bring up too.
But Doc, what about when they all get called doctors, Doc? on the ship.
Dr.
You gotta
Cheswick.
love that. Yeah, you gotta love.
This is Dr. Cheswick, Dr. Tabor, Dr. Fredrickson, Dr. Scanlon, famous Dr. Scanlon, Mr. Harding, Dr. Bibbett, Dr. Martini, and Dr. Seafeld.
When they all get called
Dr.
doctors.
Cheswick,
And they all,
Christopher
they all
Lloyd.
somehow look like doctors. They all look
Yeah,
like,
no, Christopher Lloyd does it the best, I'd
Hey,
say.
he goes
does
the
the
famous,
microphone.
the guy with the beard. He goes the famous doctor so and so, and he just goes, he just gets this really like dignified nod.
That's great.
So
Good professor.
my favorite scene, and I won't spend too much time belaboring this, but I want to say, and we've kind of mentioned it, but there were a lot of scenes where there were the group therapy. But the one scene that stood out to me the most, again, Cheswick, man, bless him, is the cigarette scene, and where everything's getting escalated. Can I have my cigarettes, please? And he's very adamant and
Sit down, will you?
kind of repeating that, and he kind of goes into kind of like this like tantrum of like, I don't want this. I don't want his cigarettes. I want my cigarettes.
And I want his, or 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 even yours. Do you understand that? I want my cigarettes, Miss Ratched.
But I love that. I love the chaos of it. And then I love how Jack Nicholson at first, or McMurphy is loving it, because all these scenes he just sits back and you can tell he's just taking it all in and cracking up. But like eventually he gets upset. Everybody's kind of getting upset. And he just marches over to the window, punches the glass, grabs the cigarettes out, and is like, here's your cigarettes. I love
Yeah,
it.
and by that time he's too far into his tantrum to even care. Which I noticed. Like he gets the case of cigarettes in his
breaks
hand,
the glass.
but he's like, once Cheswick gets the cigarettes, he doesn't even care at that point. He's so upset.
Beware, I think Doc made you think of just a couple more scenes that you wanted to mention for our viewers out there.
He covered the main one that I wanted to say, but this feels like a stupid one to close it out, but I love in the interview scene where McMurphy is having the first interview with like that dean or whoever that is, the older gentleman in the suit, and they're sitting at the desk, and he's kind of like questioning him, like, are you even supposed to be here? And McMurphy's kind of playing with them, and you kind of get the first taste of Jah's character. But I love, there's a moment in there where he's going on his tangent, and he just casually pounds the table, pounds the desk that they're sitting on, and he throws the guy off, and he just kind of chuckles and goes along with it. But it's for no reason. I'm sure it was ad-libbed, and it's just, I love the scene because it made me laugh. It set the tone of the character. It was clearly Jack Nicholson, dialing it up to dial up the character, and I just really loved that. And it was just
Hey, she was 15 going on 35.
Oh,
you know what I
Cap
mean?
over there. He does get people to get, you know what's weird though is everybody gives him the nod. Like people give him like the nod, like like
They don't think it's crazy. They're like, I get it.
I don't think that's crazy.
It sounds like we're talking about quotes right now, and let's not forget, and we don't, if it's your favorite quote, say it again, but like what Cap was saying earlier about the chief exchange, like, now I'm as big as a mountain and all that, those are quotables. I think that's wonderful. Who's got some quotables?
I'll do one.
Savage,
So when Zuckerberg is in the deposition, he's being questioned by something, and he's being questioned by one of the lawyers of, I believe it's either Eduardo's lawyers or the Winklevi's lawyers. But he said, "Are you paying attention?" And he goes,
I'm sorry?
"You have part."
Just
Well,
started
he
raining.
says a little.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do I have your full attention?
No.
Do you think I deserve it?
What?
Do you think I deserve your full attention?
I had to swear an oath before we began this deposition, and I don't want to perjure myself, so I have a legal obligation to say no.
Okay, no. You don't think I deserve your attention?
I think if your clients want to sit on my shoulders and call themselves tall, they have a right to give it a try, but there's no requirement that I enjoy sitting here listening to people lie.
You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount.
The rest of
and
my
it's like
attention is back at the
such a
offices
fucking
of Facebook,
slap
where my
across the
colleagues and I
face.
are doing
It's
things that
just
no
like,
one in
why
this
are
room,
we
including and
fucking
especially
here?
your clients,
Like,
are
what the
intellectually or
fuck is
creatively
going
capable
on?
of doing.
I love that part.
And he goes, now, did I
adequately answer your condescending question?
Yes. It's such a bitch slap, and it's such a good move, man.
Back and forth. I love that. Who else got some quotables? I know Beware usually writes a few down.
I love this scene in Social Network when Zuckerberg, I can't recall exactly when it is. I think it's like later in the movie, like 3/4 of the way through the movie, somewhere along the way. He's established, and he runs into Albright, the girl that basically creates the whole situation in the first place. And she's with her friends or whatever, and he wants to talk to her and engage with her. And she gives him the whole speech is really, really timely. It's basically like the counter argument to social media in 2020. Her whole point, it's really, it you feel it, you know what I'm saying, as an individual these days. But one line that she says is, the internet is not written in pencil, it's written in ink. And I just thought that was really, really good.
Wow.
Without, and then before she closes out with, good luck with your video game.
Yeah.
Which is just like, it's like, she doesn't get, but she gets it because she knows what's gonna kill him. And
it doesn't even care. Yeah. And like, it's not gonna affect her one way or the other, I love that. There's also a line where they're having the 1 month review in Cuckoo's Nest, and he's in front of all the McMurphy's in front of all the doctors, and the doctor, one of the younger one, asks him something, and he responds. I can't remember what he says, but he just looks at him and he goes, "I'm sorry." And he gives him a metaphor that he doesn't understand, and he goes, "I'm smarter than him, ain't I?"
A Rolling Stone gathers no moss, which we've had in 2 shows. The Truman Show said a Rolling Stone catches the worm and the early worm gathers no moss, which I love that you brought that up, Beware, because I thought that was great. And if Doc, did I say that right? Do I have my facts right?
Facts with is.
Oh, thank you for that chop, Doc. I appreciate that. You've inspired me to do my research. Extra credit. And a lot of that stuff, sometimes a movie leads to a book, or maybe even a request to make a song leads to a song. Foreshadowing. I don't know. Just stay tuned, folks. But who hasn't talked about their awesome quotables yet?
Hey, I got one quick quote.
Capper.
You got McMurphy playing cards. I think this is the first time he's truly getting irritated with the other patients. He's trying to get the music turned down. And he eventually just goes, "Jesus Christ almighty, do you nuts want to play cards? Or you want to fucking jerk off?" And that cracks me up because it's like he's playing cards with a bunch of children, and he just wants to be playing with a bunch of dudes, and he can't. So he wants to watch the ball game, and he's like super pissed off and irritated, and you can really feel that in that quote.
That's great stuff. You inspired Savage to say something.
Yeah, so just to go what we were talking about with the scene and a quote, so to double back, it's a little bit of a scene. It's just the opening scene of Social Network. Obviously, I'm going to go talk about Social Network more because I can talk about this movie for
White Stripes.
Yeah, it's going to be the opening scene. So not only do we get my favorite White Stripes song of all time, which is very era specific because they're showing a 2003 scene. So it's Ball and Biscuit from the album Elephant. Fantastic album for our listeners out there that have not yet heard. And it culminates with basically her calling him an asshole, and then cutting to the score with Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, and then him kind of like taking a light jog across campus back to his dorm room to kind of vent and do some live journal postings and whatnot. But one of the quotes that she says was, "You're probably going to be like a very successful computer person, but you're going to go through life thinking that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that will not be true. It'll be because you're an asshole." And it's such a perfect line. It kind of like takes the movie, crunches it down to a soundbite, and kind of sends you forward into like, why is he actually an asshole? Oh yeah, it's because of X, Y, Z, and everything else that comes after, because he is an asshole, and he comes off as an asshole, and everyone thinks he's an asshole.
Wow, I love all that, Savage. Hey, Doc, what you got to say about it?
One of my favorite asshole quotes that I think is hilarious of Zuckerberg is when they're doing a deposition and it's with him and Eduardo and their teams, and they're talking about money. And they're like $18,000 in addition to the $1,000, like for a total of $19,000 now. And Zuckerberg's character goes, "Hold on.
Let me check the math."
I got the same thing.
Love that. Such a dick move. Just being an asshole, being just being difficult, but it's too funny, man.
He plays pompous so well. I love that his sheets he's doodling on is everybody else is taking notes. The twins are taking notes. He's just doodling, and you never get a straight shot of the doodles. But if you look, it's clearly doodles. Hey, I want to play a game with my thread members here. Maybe basketball, maybe a little mixture. Let's make an app here. I want to ask everybody's favorite piece of memorabilia, but I know maybe you didn't have time to think of it tonight, so I'll give you a second to think. Why ALLiTiZ goes first. I'm going to take that basketball, man, because like I said, that basketball scene was like one of my favorite quotes, one of my favorite scenes. I want the basketball they played in there. Maybe I can get it signed by the Chief. I don't know. I'd have to check with Doc if he's still with us. But we know Jack is, and I'll gladly take a basketball signed by Jack. Signed to McMurphy for me. Who wants to go next movie? It looks like B-Bear wants to go.
I'll take the record.
I love that.
The record.
Wow, it comes with the classical music
From
too.
Cuckoo's Nest, of course.
Cap, got a piece of memorabilia for us?
I'll take the Chiefs' big mop.
I like that.
I feel like it's a powerful piece of I don't know. He holds it like it's almost a weapon.
That's in the artwork, right, Cap?
It's a staff. Yeah, it is.
Hey, shout out to Cap, the artist. Hey, Savage, before you pass it to the Doc, what's your piece of memorabilia? Come on, you got something for us. It has to be from your favorite movie of all time.
I mean, I'm trying to think of something from either movie. I mean, I like the
Take the oars, Bo.
I like the oars. I like I don't know
the door handle they rip off of Harvard.
The 350-year-old door handle. I do. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll take that. That's a good one. Thank you, ALLiTiZ.
I know my friends.
Broke a 335-year-old doorknob.
I appreciate that. That's a good one.
Doc, I'm going to ask you for your favorite piece of memorabilia, but then I'm going to ask you to do what you do. Will you lead into awards and a few last little bit facts before we go to the vote?
Yeah, so my piece of memorabilia, Mark Zuckerberg's business card that says, "I'm CEO, bitch."
Great. Hey, that's a fact, though, isn't it, Doc? He actually made those up. I got a couple facts down here, Doc. If you ever need,
that's an interesting part of that movie, because at that point, when he finally gets those and looks at it, he's just like, "This isn't
stupid.
What I should be doing."
It's immature,
good, man. Yeah. I like when he says, "I'm about to sue you for everything too," and you really see how vulnerable he is. He hates that type of confrontation where somebody's like calling him out, like, "Bitch, I'm about to fucking take you for everything." I like that. That's a good scene too. But Doc, I know you usually do your research on awards and stuff like that. So this is one of my favorite parts of the show. So let's do it.
I'm looking real quick to see if I have any other facts that are worthy of
Facts with Doc.
Yeah, let me do some quick facts, and then I'll segue into awards real quick. But I actually found this pretty interesting. So, you guys know the moment when they're talking about honorable folks that graduated from Harvard. At one point, they mention the movie star. Do you guys know who they're talking about?
It's like
Natalie Portman, right?
Yeah,
Natalie Portman. Thank you, Jesus.
So they're referencing Natalie Portman, who was a friend actually of Aaron Sorkin, who is the screenwriter for this movie. She actually hosted a dinner party and invited a lot of her Stanford friends, and then invited Alan Sorkin to that party as he was writing the screenplay for this movie, so that he could hear firsthand a lot of stories of Harvard about party life, about relationships, about culture, about dynamics there. And that actually influenced a lot of the party scenes that were written. Part of it, and a lot about the social clubs and that sort of thing. So interesting how Natalie Portman played a role kind of in this cultural experience. So I'll start there, though. We'll kind of slide into awards. So Social Network, 2010, quick facts, got a 7.7 on IMDb, 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, really favorable score. It had 8 Academy Award nominations. Took home 3 wins for screenplay.
Is that the most we've had yet, Doc? 8? or if we had more Deer
I
Hunter.
don't know. That's a good question.
Eight sounds high though. That sounds
that's really
that sounds
high,
big.
man. Like that's a really significant number.
But
Also,
I haven't been liking the Academy lately. I don't know. Sorry about that, Doc. I just haven't really been liking the Academy, man. It's just they don't vote well. Not like us.
I agree. I agree. Hey, do you think that this is what the Academy does for each category? They have a
Absolutely.
They do a Zoom.
They do Zoom meetings.
Zoom was actually invented by the Academy. I think that's what Cap told me last night at a fire or something.
Well, in that case, I'd like to thank the Academy.
Yeah, oh, shit.
So they won for best screenplay, editing, music. They were, if you look at what they were nominated for, I think actually Jesse Eisenberg was nominated for best actor. Let's see, best achievement in directing. So David Fincher was awarded or nominated for best director. It was nominated for best motion picture of the year. So it had some really kind of admirable nominations. So it was definitely in conversations. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, 9 nominations.
Oh, there we go. So it just we have a new high one. Okay,
Yep.
on record.
And it took home 5 wins.
Damn.
Best picture, best
Yes.
actor, best actress, best director, and best screenplay.
She was good.
Those
She
are
didn't get
the-
anybody's
that's
favorite,
like-
man. She was
Those are the biggest awards too.
That's called the Grand Slam. And
Yeah.
only
Oh.
2 other movies, here's trivia time, only 2 other movies have done it. So
it's got to be old movies.
So the first one is an old one. I'm just going to give it to you guys. It was called It Happened One Night, came out in 1934.
Great movie.
Cap.
It just missed the list.
Mulligan. The second one is actually one that's on our list. Any guesses of what took home?
Oh, it can't be one we reviewed yet.
Have we watched it already? No,
we
I
haven't.
don't think we've watched it. Wow. Let's all take a guess. Just go when you're ready.
Do you guys want the year?
Yes.
Yes.
I want pre-2000 or post.
All right, give me a second. I have to look it up.
All right, just keep thinking, guys. We should know our greatest movies.
American Beauty. I'm gonna say American Beauty.
That's a good pick.
Man, I would say that too.
I'll say what is the Mulligan? The war one. I'm sorry.
So here's a hint.
Apocalypse Now.
Yes, I'm saying Apocalypse Now is my vote.
Year's 1991.
I'm wrong with
Silence
Apocalypse
of the
Now.
Lambs.
Goodfellas.
Cap
director,
got
I don't
it.
think.
Cap got it.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yep. It's the only
Yes.
movie. Only
Is
3
Silence
movies.
of the Lambs on our list?
Best
It is-
actor, best
It is.
actress.
It is.
Cat put that there. You know,
Wow.
You're gonna
I
watch
guess I'm
it. You're
throwing
gonna
shade at
fucking
it.
love it.
I don't have a Mulligan, folks, so I can't replace it. I'm throwing shade at a movie I've seen, but I don't remember that being one of the greatest. I'm sorry, folks.
Got a Grand Slam,
Hey,
dude. Come on.
for it. But if we're gonna watch the series tonight, we're actually talking about what is the greatest movie and what is the greater movie. And this is the time of the night where I do check in with the doc to make sure that I'm not going to the vote too soon. I'm not sliding into home base, but we have to vote on which movie is greater out of these 2 great movies: The Social Network or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Doc, are we clear for the vote?
Breaker. We're all clear.
We are clear for the vote, and folks, I have to go to Savage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be any surprise to y'all. It's a the dialogue is it's an Aaron Sorkin, David Fincher masterpiece. It's the dialogue is a juggernaut on its own. It's so fast. There's so many good quotes. It's such a moving movie. There's a lot of things going on. It has the historical implications, and yet to be seen implications as well. As much as I really enjoyed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, my vote is for No Surprises, The Social Network.
Oh, Sav. I thought you would, and that's fine. Hey, how often can you see a greater movie than one of your favorites? That's really tricky. I'm going to go to Beware next for his vote. Thank you, Savage.
Hadn't seen both of these movies, but twice. Been a while since I saw both of them. Gave me good perspective upon watching them recently this week. I liked Social Network less than I liked it last time. I think the seeing that movie for the very first time is something special. You've never seen anything like it. You don't have that same feeling the second time. And then, yeah, that's not to take anything away from how great of a movie it is. And I think that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is just, man, it's an emotional powerhouse. It's a great movie. It's really heartfelt. It's really it's really socially conscious, and it's just excellent. And I'm gonna vote for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Beware's votes in. Man, I don't want to say anything other than just pass it to the Cap to see what he's got to say. I'm kind of hoping somebody votes for The Social Network just because I'm starting to feel Savage. He's over there. He's about to fucking build an app, and I bet it's going to be fantastic, folk. He's going to take this determination.
And I hope it's an app that changes my mind in the next 5 seconds.
No matter what it is.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna.
So I would say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. All the way. It's not even a contest for me. I do really like The Social Network. I do appreciate the fact that it's a Fincher and a Sorkin movie. However, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of those movies that gets me every time. It makes me so sad at the end, but I'm laughing all the way through it. I love the characters, and I love the story, and I always have. So that's my vote.
Oh, Cap. I'm getting nervous because technically if the Doc and I both vote for Social Network, we will the Social Network will go forward. So it's still suspenseful over here. Man, let's go to the Doc. I'm going to vote last because this is indeed my mulligan. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's replaced 3 Billboards. So Doc, we're in with your vote.
So I had a lot of fun with homework this week. I had actually recently seen Social Network. My wife and I watched it, thoroughly enjoyed it. It is, I think, one of our favorites. I hadn't seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in some time, but it's one of those movies that it's been so long, but I remembered being like, damn, that's a good movie. So when you brought it up, I was like, yeah, that should totally be on there. I don't know exactly why, but like I know it's a really good movie. Social Network, I think it's fun to watch. It kind of like highlights it's a time that we all lived through, and it really felt like some of the, it brought me back to college. It brought me back to that time. Like I remember, getting on
nostalgia, if you will.
Yeah, totally. And like I liked that. It was fun to watch. I loved Justin Timberlake's Sean Parker. I love the fun. I love the excitement. I love, they're building something and it's taking off, and that's so exciting. And that's very entertaining. But as I mentioned, I think like I almost want to see the sequel to this, not that there would actually be a sequel, but like,
no, it's in discussion. It's in discussion.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, there's, or at least rumors,
but it's almost like so much has happened that this little startup story is interesting, but like, I don't know, like it's pretty one-dimensional in my opinion. And actually, when I was doing some research, even Fincher admits that Social Network, he said it's a little glib to even be a film. And it's not earth-shattering. He said it really is just a story about friendship, and I thought that it was interesting, that. And so even Fincher, who obviously he's got an amazing resume, but even kind of recognizes like there's not a lot of depth necessarily to this movie. And I think that says a lot coming from him, but it was one that he wanted to do because of friendships and this kind of dissolving of a friendship. That said, like moving to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I, again, hadn't seen this in a long time and was just blown away by it, man. Like, I watched it and was so giddy watching it, cracking up. Like, the McMurphy had me in stitches the whole time. The scenes were sad and funny and dramatic and frustrating and rebellious, but, like, heroic. And, like, I think Beware said it earlier of, like, it's so relevant still. It's a lot of the same themes that we're kind of still battling today or fighting today. And although it's a sad movie, it made you feel like somebody won or you won at the end. Even though your main protagonist, is gone, you still feel a sense of release or relief with the chief, escaping. And it's, I remember back to like watching the beginning scene is, it's this nature scene, eerie music, and McMurphy's being kind of driven to the Institute. And then the last scene is nature scene, music, but then the chief is running away from the scene. And it's like, that's what the movie is. It's this freedom. It's this, and he was a character like we brought up earlier. He wasn't as big as a tree, and now he is, and he has the strength and confidence to kind of go out. And this is Ron Howard's favorite movie and Barack Obama's favorite movie, and so I'm going to have to go with that and say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
The doc's adding himself to that list, and one day it will be just that, and then they'll say the doc. Hey, folks, have you ever had that feeling where something did happen so bad that it might just hit you so wrong and give you an itch that it turned into determination? Maybe it was a girl. Maybe it was somebody telling you you're never going to amount to something. But ladies and gentlemen, after hearing all that stuff about a fantastic film, I think the thing I was the most guilty about is replacing a movie, 3 Billboards, that probably wouldn't have made it through against the Social Network. I'm guessing. I'm only guessing. I have to guess now. It still could be used for Mulligan, but I feel bad for Savage because this is a great movie. If The Big Lebowski loses to IMDb's favorite movie of all time, The Shawshank Redemption, I'm going to shed some tears that night, folks. And that's the type of list we're up against. And I'm really I hope my voting karma doesn't come in, but I'm going to say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That determination, man. Hey, it got one man out of a prison. It got another $1 billion company. Take your pick, folks. I'm going to run away from the credits like the doc said. But folks, you know who did some extra credit this week? Beware. No. He did. Hey, Beware cooked us up a Let's Go to the Hat song, because that's what I'm doing, folks. So I don't have to pull you around and get you the Marl Steins anymore, because we're going to go right now to a new Beware produced track. Let's Go to the Hat.
It's a hat, it's a hat, it's a teddy, it's a hat.
Let's go to the hat. Let's go to the hat. Let's go to the hat. Let's go to the.
Take your hat off.
Excuse me. Let's go to the hat. Let's go to the hat. Let's go to the.
It's a hat, it's a hat, it's a hat.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a hat in front of me, and I've just listened to an epic little quirky song. Beware cooked it up just right. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I just took my thumb off, and this is the first time that it seems like the movies are right there. I can actually read them on my tiny little piece of paper that I have in front of me. And I can't believe how much we've had of this director, but now we have a double, folks. We have a back-to-back director in the same bracket. What? Some of our thread members might be able to guess, but we have a Scorsese versus a Scorsese film, folks. What are the chances of that? So if you don't know out there, folks, the 64, one of those two greatest movies ever, The Goodfellas versus The Departed. What do you got to say about that?
Man, that's homework, man.
I don't know the year difference between the films. We have made a lot of comparisons about Scorsese. He's caught some good observations from thread members, but this is great because like Savage tried to do last week, he tried to pair Fincher and Fincher. It didn't happen. So ladies and gentlemen and all my thread members, this is the time of the night. Please don't do what we did last week. And I want directors to go up against each other. And I'm going to ask, does anybody have a mulligan, which I do not? We have the doc with his hand up, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if he wants to replace one. Let's see. The doc is in.
I just want to piggyback off what you were saying. I just want to say, I love you.
Doc, hey, I love you too. I love all you guys, man.
I love you so much.
But that's still, there's some suspense in the air. I see. Does anybody speak now or forever hold your peace? Savage, what do you got to say?
So if these movies hold, is this going to be our guys' trip? Is this going to be the first live taping?
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't even told the folks yet. Savage. This is a Savage scene in our episode right here, episode 7. I hope that's right, folks. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, next week, we are going on our annual guide trip that has been going on for quite some time. I'd say at least 6 or 7, 8 years. And we have decided to do a live recording, but we won't have it. We'll have it edited and chopped up like normally. at a cottage up north in Michigan where we are. Holy shitski, folks. It's going to be, you know, this is, I don't know how people are going to get in their homework. I kind of totally forgot about this, but what we're going to have to do, you know what, folks? I'm calling for it. I'm calling for a sloppy synopsis breakdown the whole time, folks, because we're going to be there. We're going up north. You know, there's going to be a few brewskis, some Rolling Rock, a tribute to our good taste. You know, there's going to be a lot of that going on. Some Trulies, folks. Shout out to a couple of our sponsors, and please drink responsibly. But hey, we'll be drinking responsibly. But next week, we're going to be live up north in Ossining, Michigan. Whoa, folks. Hey, while I'm on that point, you ever want to get in contact with the thread, folks? You have a question, a comment, a suggestion, a vote, that a movie you're so upset about? Maybe you're a Social Network fan, folks. Why don't you go ahead and email us at 4, the number, because that's our favorite number, 4, folks, our thread podcast at gmail.com. That is 4 our thread podcast. But hey, shout out to our thread members, Doc, Beware, Savage, and Cap. We had a fabulous episode tonight, and I'm sorry, Savage. I love you so much, buddy. I see you, man. You're just go create
so
something
hard,
great.
you know?
Turn this into something, some determination, and you can make something great out of it. So
Build that app.
You know, it could be anything. He's a craftsman too. He can works well with his hands. That Savage.
Mm.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm ALLiTiZ, and welcome to our thread. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for The Goodfellas versus The Departed, a Scorsese meltdown, folks. What is it going to be? Hey, wait. Why don't you play that music by Beware one more time like we do? Go!
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, it's very, homey.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
I hope you realize how you've hurt my feelings.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Next place.
Just take it easy, man.
I'm perfectly confident. Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer, you are.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway. Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters. Get off my back! Don't fuck my plane!
And like that, he's gone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread Podcast, bringing our content to you, featuring ALLiTiZ.
It's official, old buddy. Who has been.
Beware.
From then on, he was known as Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
The Doc.
You're the doc, Doc.
The Cap.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Big fuck!
And myself, Savage.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's 2 of them.